Mr. McGowan. Premier, how are you?
Good morning, Scotty. I'm great. How are you?
Great. It's fantastic to have you in the studio. Thanks very much for popping in and having a chat to us. Having a good time in the Kimberley?
I am. I've been up here for 5 or so days now, and I've been in Derby. I had a couple of nights in Derby, a couple of nights in Broome, and I went out to Bidjadanga, and I'm up here for a couple of nights in Kununurra. So it's been a great trip. I love the Kimberley. It's a beautiful place.
Well, we love having you here. It is a beautiful place. We love it as well. And of course, we're in the middle of NAIDOC week, and I saw yesterday you opened NAIDOC week here in Kununurra down at White Gum Park. And so tell us about NAIDOC week. And obviously, you're talking to a lot of people while you're up here. What have the Aboriginal leaders been saying to you recently?
Well, I have been talking to lots of Aboriginal people, and I did open NAIDOC week yesterday at the park, and I'm doing a ceremony shortly about Aboriginal Interpreting Service of Western Australia. So we're providing some support, some financial support for that. So there'll be interpreters in the local hospitals to help people when they're dealing with doctors and nurses and the like in the hospitals. Well, look, Aboriginal leaders talk to me about the important things, which is obviously access to land rights, which I think obviously at times difficult for people to manage, but I think it's gone reasonably well here in the Kimberley. They talk to me about employment and what job opportunities are out there. So in Derby, I talked a lot to Aboriginal leaders about Aboriginal young people, in particular, getting jobs on the Sheffield project when that goes ahead. And also making sure that we have decent health and education services. So all those things are top of my mind, and they're the sorts of things I work on every day.
Premier, does law and order pop up at all?
Oh, it has. Obviously, it has. So we had a talk about making sure that we have alternative options for young people, particularly if they're found to have committed an offence, and sending kids down to Perth for punishment. I don't know if that's particularly productive. So we're working on what options we can do to keep people here. So last night I met with a group of Aboriginal elders, and we had a talk about those sorts of things and what the options are to have kids, if they're caught doing something wrong, go into local things here in the Kimberley that might be productive, involve some work, involve people getting back to country, hopefully get them off the pathway to a life of crime, and which is inevitably a short life and an unpleasant life and unpleasant for everyone else. So what you want to do is have options that get people off that pathway. If you're on that pathway, it's destructive for yourself and it's destructive for everyone else. And so come up with those ways is important.
It certainly is, yeah. And I'm glad that you're up here and you're talking to the people about those problems. There's a couple of other things that I've just made a little bit of a list of the things I can sort of mention to you. And
you know, Scotty, I've met a group of kids as well.
Yeah.
I talked to some older people, but I also talked to a group of kids. I sat in Subway yesterday with 3 boys.
Fantastic.
So they all were eating their Subway, and I was eating my Subway, and they were all about 10 or 12. And I told them the most important thing in life that they can do at their age is try their hardest at school. And I kept telling them until they repeated it back to me. I said, just remember, I'm the Premier of Western Australia, and that's what I'm telling you. So if you remember that the rest of your life, that will do, or the next few years at least, that will put you in good stead for the rest of your life. So my advice and I give that advice to kids, it doesn't matter who they are, because I grew up in a country town, and I went to public schools, and there was lots of Aboriginal kids where I grew up, and it certainly wasn't affluent, wasn't wealthy. All I did was try my hardest at school, and it did me wonders. So that's the advice I always give to kids.
There's some great advices there as well. And we do have some good schools up here and some great people involved in schools. There's also some great things like Clontarf Academy and things like that. They're proving to be quite successful. Any of those other ideas on the drawing board?
Well, there's about 8 or 10 Clontarfs around Western Australia, and there's some that relate to girls as well, with netball and basketball.
Yeah, that's very important, isn't it?
That's right. And but having people engaged in school, whether it's by using sport or whether it's using other techniques, is very important. And you don't have to be academic at school. You might be practical. You might be good at using your hands. You might just want to get good literacy skills so you can get a job driving a truck or something like that, or you might want to get a trade at the end of school. just as long as you try your hardest. That's all I tell the kids. It's very important that they get that message because coming from me, if I can change yesterday, if I changed a couple of lives, well, that's really important, and that's all. That's one of the most important parts of my role.
Well, Premier, I think they'll be talking about it for a while. There they are in Subway. Next minute they're meeting the Premier of Western Australia, the leader of one of the biggest areas on the planet. Yeah, I made a list of a few things I just wanted to fire at you and hear you have a chat to myself about. First of all, sea farms, prawn farm.
That's right. It's a project slightly on the Northern Territory side of the border,
Yeah.
as we know, but also a lot of the logistics would happen through Kununurra, which would be good for the local community. We continue to work with them. I think they're working with the Commonwealth as well on what's called a NAIF grant, which is a Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund loan. So we're hopeful that that project will go ahead. It hasn't gone ahead as yet, but that's one that has huge employment prospects for people here.
It certainly does. That's great. How's things in the mining boom at the moment?
Well, the mining sector is actually taking off again.
It is, yeah.
It won't be a boom, which is fine, but there will be. There's already significant movement, so we've had major announcements by FMG, BHP, Rio Tinto. Some of the gold miners are investing enormously, oil and gas. What we're going to do is make sure we maximise the jobs for local people, in particular Aboriginal people. So in those areas around Pilbara, I'm always talking to the companies about making sure they give Aboriginal people a go. And here in the Kimberley, for instance, there's a Sheffield project near Derby, and we want to see that employ 40% Aboriginal people at least. So those sorts of projects give young men and women in particular the opportunities for productive job and a good life. So we're working very hard on making sure we maximise Aboriginal employment and Aboriginal businesses getting a share of the work as well.
Jobs and trade, one of your portfolios as well. So obviously you are pushing those jobs and trades.
That's
quite
right.
Extensively.
So I'm Premier, but also Minister for Jobs and Trade, which is the old state development. So it's important that when we get projects, we maximise the opportunities for local people, particularly those in the regions. I mean, I live in the city now. I live down in Rockingham near Perth, and when you live out in the regions and you're part of the region, you want to make sure that those people who've lived there perhaps for a long period of time get all the opportunities that come with the projects that come to their region.
Thanks, Premier. Looks like we've had a little win with the GST.
We have. We've done a lot of work on the federal government to get some support. Basically, they're going to top our share up to 70 cents in the dollar, which I mean is a lot better than where we were. It's certainly not as good as other states get, but it's a lot better than where we were. So we're happy that this has occurred. And we'd urge the other states to get on board with this. If we could get more, we would. So if the federal Labor offers more, well, then that would be great. So Bill Shorten has been very strong on ensuring that there was support for Western Australia. Malcolm Turnbull and the Liberals have come in behind that. But if Bill Shorten wants to up the offer, well, I'm sure West Australians will appreciate that.
We will. We certainly will. Of course, we're in the tourism season at the moment around the Kimberley. Your thoughts on tourism and/or flights?
Well, our tourism sector is very important here in Kimberley, one of the major employers, if not the biggest employer. And certainly in Broome, it appeared to me to be going pretty well the last few days, and we've got those flights that are cheaper for people to get into Broome and then branch out to the rest of the Kimberley. We're trying to get flights up again into Derby, and so we're working with the airlines on that. And obviously the airfares into other parts of the state, including Kununurra, are very expensive. So that's one of the things I'll talk to the council about, no doubt, later on today. But we've seen some improvement in tourism, particularly in the Broome. If you get more tourists into Broome, well then hopefully they get out to places like Derby and Fitzroy and Halls Creek and the Gibb River and Kununurra and all those places that provide jobs and opportunities in the East Kimberley as well as the West Kimberley.
Brilliant. Now, Premier, my next one, the big issue at the moment, plastic bags. What's your opinion on plastic bags?
Well, we ban them. We ban them.
You certainly did.
Plastics are terrible, and whether it's plastic bags or these, any other sort of plastic, they're everywhere, and it's hard to avoid them.
Yeah.
It's hard to avoid them. They are everywhere. So what you've got to do is make sure that we reduce the usage as much as we can. So we're going to work nationally to try and reduce the availability of plastics. And if we can go to other forms of containers, or if we can go to what we used to use, glass containers, whatever it might be, well then that'd be a good thing, because so much plastic gets washed into the oceans and kills marine life. So we've started with banning plastic bags. We banned them as of 10 days ago.
Now, it's a no-brainer, but what would you say to somebody having a hissy fit in a supermarket about not getting a plastic bag?
Bring your own bags. You can bring your own bags, and supermarkets do offer those 15-cent reusable bags if you want one of those. But bring your own bags, and as soon as you get used to it, it becomes normal.
It is. It's
as someone said to me, it's like putting your wallet in your pocket. You just put your wallet in your pocket when you go out. It's just natural. When you get in the car, you put your seatbelt on.
I find it hard to put the bags from the kitchen back into the car. That's the area.
You just got to have a bunch of them in your car at all times.
That's right. All right, now there's lots and lots of sport being played around the place. I wanted your opinion on the two Western Australian football teams, and also Optus Stadium. You get along there very often?
I've been there maybe 4 times for different sporting events. I went to the cricket. I've been to a couple of football games. It's a stupendous venue.
Yeah.
But the Dockers aren't doing too well. They're my team. I think we're down about 14th or so.
Yeah.
The Eagles are in the top 4, so they're doing pretty well. And it looks like the Dockers certainly won't make it this year, but that's not unusual. We've been not making it now for 25 years, so we're used to failure. With the Eagles, though, they're carrying the hopes of Western Australia at the moment.
The third game of State of Origin being played tomorrow. I know there's not a Western Australian team in there, although we have got a Western Australian game next year, haven't we?
That's right. We've got a State of Origin coming to Western Australia, and that'll be a big tourism event for our state.
It certainly will.
I think the third State of Origin, that's New South Wales has already won the series,
That's right.
so it's just to round it out. I actually follow Queensland because whilst I grew up in New South Wales, I went to university in Brisbane, so for some reason I started following Queensland over New South Wales. But I don't follow rugby league much anymore. I'm more an AFL person these days.
Yeah. Well, Premier, you'll have a lot of support because there are a lot of Queensland. I'm a Blues supporter myself. Go the Blues, but there is a lot of Queensland support here in Kununurra. So well done. And of course, over the next couple of days, the big event around the world is the World Cup. We've got 4 teams left. Some cracker matches. What's your prediction? France versus Belgium?
I think France will win that, and England versus Croatia. I think England will win that. I'm hoping England win. I'd love to see England win again.
Football's coming home.
They haven't won now, in my memory, since 1966.
Yeah, 52 years.
So
right.
that was the year before I was born. So the entire time I've been alive, England hasn't won. So I'd love to see England win. They love their football in England. They love their soccer, and it'd be so uplifting for them. So I'm back at England.
By the way, you're not here in Kununurra on Friday celebrating your birthday, are you?
No, back down in the cold for my birthday on Friday.
Well, we wish you a happy birthday. And we will play one of your favourite songs on Friday, Birds of Tokyo, Lanterns.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't got it organised here, but we will try to get that in on Friday for your birthday. Premier, thanks very much for popping in and having a chat to us. We wish you all the best in Kununurra. Hopefully we'll see you on a regular basis. Good luck with all your meetings today, and all the best for governing our state.
Thanks, Scotty, and thanks to your listeners.